we work our physical bodies. We are concerned about our physical bodies. We're concerned about heart health. Like, nobody would say, like, oh, there's Michelle, she's working on her heart health. Like,
right.
Like, nobody would be like, oh, Michelle on her heart. Like, mental illness mental health is no different.
That's a great point.
And I love when he said that. Like, think of it as like a trainer or a coach of something like that, where it's just, you're just building your mental health. This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate MarriageCast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to episode 140. We are so glad you're joining us today, and we're proud of you for making this investment in your relationship. Here's what we would say as you listen today. If there's someone that God puts in your heart that would be great to share this with, please share it. You never know, even just sharing on social, who that will impact and the domino effect of that. So share this show as you listen today if someone is put on your heart or your mind. So, Ryan.
Yeah, Michelle.
You wrote our show today.
I did.
Thank you.
Yes. I didn't want May to pass without bringing awareness to something. May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's such an important topic, I think, to discuss. We've talked about it several times on the show. It's such an important topic, and
it's a big deal.
It's a super big deal. And I think, first of all, like, I just want to quick disclaimer: we are not like licensed therapists. We're not here to diagnose anything, or
if you didn't know that, now you do.
Now you do.
We're pretty transparent about that, though.
It's simply to bring awareness to this topic.
Yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for including this. I saw the title, I read through the notes when you sent them over, and I really appreciate your heart on this because it's a really important topic. We all have mental health that we need to work on, and we're going to share some of those examples in the show. But I really appreciate you putting this show together.
Yeah,
so thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan. And I also have some stats I want to share. So the National Alliance on Mental Illness says that 23.4% of U.S. adults experienced mental illness in 2024. 23.4%. That is 61.5 million people, or 1 in 5 adults. And actually, looking at that stat, it's almost closer to 1 in 4 adults by that percentage.
Yeah.
That is a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Michelle, I mean, looking at those numbers, 1 in 5, almost 1 in 4 adults, obviously this topic impacts marriages and family.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, it either impacts your marriage or the next one, right? That'd be 1 in 4 or someone in your family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think there's some really, I think there's really a couple of really important things when it comes to this topic. And that first being that you are not alone. Like, isolation is the worst possible thing for a person struggling with mental illness, or for those, caregivers, spouses who are living with someone with a mental illness. But I think it's so important, just again, looking at the numbers, you're clearly not alone in this. There's power in community. And I think whether that's a church group, a community group, a support group, whatever it is, there's several resources and support available. Michelle, I was just looking up online as I was doing this, and there's so many resources out there. And, I was looking, there's support groups available through that National Alliance of Mental Health. Mm-hmm. Psychology Today has a group directory. And then there's a Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. There's so many resources and groups that are available for like I said, if you're a spouse, if you have parents or something like that, there's so many of those groups available.
Right. I was just pulling my phone to look up a quote. I just heard this on the radio today. I actually have another thought, but this ties in so perfectly. The quote is from C.S. Lewis. And it's funny that I just said the radio. I feel like that's a little antiquated, but I can't get my Bluetooth in my car to work. So I've been listening to the radio. I feel really old school, and it kind of brings joy to my heart.
Absolutely.
But, so I heard this on the radio today, Life 96.5, and I love their music, but they had this quote. It said, C.S. Lewis in his book, The Four Loves, said, "Friendship is born at the moment when one person says to another, 'What? You too? I thought I was the only one.'" And I think, Ryan, what I wanted to share is that I think it's a great lie of Satan that you are the only one and that nobody else has gone through what you're experiencing, because Satan wants to isolate you, right? When he isolates you, then he takes you away from community that can lift you up. He really, that's where he can do the most damage, is in the isolation.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. I love that quote, Michelle. And I think it's so critical. I think especially with this topic of just realizing like, oh, you too?
Yeah.
And it's so good.
The second thing to consider is that there is help available. So Ryan shared some of those resources, but seek out a licensed mental health professional. I feel like we've been sharing this so much, but I just don't think we can say it enough, that seek out somebody to walk alongside you. There is no shame in that. And maybe it's just letting go of pride or whatever it is, or just really taking a few moments to figure out, maybe it's just you felt overwhelmed at where to even start. There's so many places. Just look it up. We have a great resource in Tony Bohr with Sioux Empire Christian Counseling. I actually added the link to his practice. I'll have in the show notes for you to look up, or even online tools, BetterHelp. I did that for a season, and I loved that I could do virtual visits from my house. It was really convenient. I didn't have to drive anywhere, and the plan I was on had appointments every week. But then they also had these therapy sessions, these group sessions, which I was a little nervous to try, but they were really cool. And the thing that I needed to tell myself was, everyone in this group, first, it's a kind of it's a private, sacred space. Nobody's gonna, get off the group session and be like, "Oh my gosh, Michelle is stressed about this," or, anxious about this. It's part of their code and their culture, but they were really cool. They had art. Like, I did a drawing class where this person instructed us and led us through a drawing, and we kind of, talked and shared and listened. There was a meditation one. There were different courses or sessions on certain topics. So they kind of dialed into specific things, and it just is really great. So I did those weekly things, and then the weekly one-on-ones and the weekly groups for a season. And it was so helpful, and just right in the comfort of our home. So there are so many tools out there.
Yeah, Michelle, I think that's so good. Like, in understanding that those tools are there, that there are online tools. If you have that fear of, I'll be honest, like I had that fear when I first went to see a therapist.
Which, can I just say, is I think we've talked about this with Tony, but I get that. Like, walking into the office, it feels nervous, and I think Tony has shared this. If someone says, "Well, what if I see someone I know?" Well, here's the thing. They're there for help too.
Exactly right.
So actually, if you do see someone you know, you might actually have a stronger bond or connection with them, just knowing, like, hey, we're both working on things, and there's just a humanness and a vulnerability to that.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
But I think too, Ryan, it's just knowing that it's okay to even go for a season. And some seasons of your life just require that extra support, or it can be ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So either way.
Absolutely. I love, Michelle, going back to Tony, because I think Tony brought some great wisdom to this topic. A few shows back, we talked about anxiety, depression. We talked about, mental illness, some of those things. And I love what he said about, we work our physical bodies. We are concerned about our physical bodies. We're concerned about heart health. Like, nobody would say, like, "Oh, there's Michelle, she's working on her heart health." Like,
right.
Like, nobody would be like, "Oh, Michelle on her heart." Like, mental illness mental health is no different.
That's a great point.
And I love when he said that. Like, think of it as like a trainer or a coach of something like that, where it's just you're just building your mental health.
Yeah, that's great. Such a great, healthy way to look at it.
Yeah, and that's stuck with me for so long. Of like, well, yeah, look at Ryan. He's working on his heart. Like, it's
my gosh,
it's no different, And I just, that's something that's stuck with me, since that show, because it is such an important topic, and it's, if I could just urge you, like, just let go of that, whatever it is. Know that there's help. Know that there's resources available.
Yeah, and I think, Ryan, since we are bringing awareness to the topic, it's also really important to note that if you are listening and you or a friend or a family member is having suicidal thoughts, that there is a crisis line 24/7. You can call, text, or chat with 988. I believe, you can call 911, but 988 is specifically for that. And as I looked at their site, they have a variety of things where you can call, you can text. They even have subcategories. So for veterans, you dial 988 and then you press 1 for veteran-specific support. And I love that they have I hate that they have to have that, but I also love that they have a specific line to support our veterans.
Yeah.
There's a deaf or hard of hearing text or chat. They can use 988 with ASL video phone, which is really great. And then they have for Spanish. So they have, that it's essentially texting, I think, help to 988. So ayuda. I need to double check that that's the correct translation before this. Come on, Google Translate. Say it. Ayuda, and that is help. Yep. So you would text that to 988.
Yeah. Michelle, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Also just want to give a shout out, I think, to, our pastoral teams everywhere. Tony Bohr, Debbie Wade, John Anderson, all of these friends of the Celebrate MarriageCast that are licensed therapists that are out there, and all they do in the communities that they serve, all the podcast listeners that have, gleaned that wisdom or just got insight, and maybe that was a trigger to get help, to make a phone call, whatever it is. Just a big shout out to them as well for all they do in their communities to support mental health.
I appreciate you recognizing them, Ryan, because when they come on the show, they have graciously given their time, their talent, their expertise. So when Tony comes on, or Debbie, or like you said, John, or any of the guests that we've had on, they're not getting paid at what they would in their office. They have donated their time because they believe in the vision and the mission of Celebrate. They believe in what we're doing here with the Celebrate MarriageCast, and they truly want to help. And I think about what it takes to be someone in that profession. It's just they're being the helper every single day. They're pouring out and being the helper. And it really takes a strong spiritual person to continue to have their foundation and have themselves poured into by God, and, just making sure that they're well so that they can pour out. So I love that you're recognizing them, because they truly have been such a gift and a blessing to the show, and I believe our listeners.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, Michelle, again, just this is a topic that is really huge, and I think it's really important. And I didn't want May to pass without bringing light to this. Just awareness, and know, again, going back to the main things, you're not alone. You're not alone. There are groups, there are people available. And there's help available. And I think those are the two big things that you can hold on to, just to bring awareness, to bring hope.
And I think too, knowing that we've done other shows. So scrolling back and looking for those where it talks, we did one with Tony on what if your spouse has anxiety? What if they have depression? How do you really walk with them and be gentle and walk alongside them in those seasons? We've done a number of other mental health shows, but also I think having that conversation with your spouse, and maybe that's something that is your takeaway from this about just opening up. If you're really going through a tough season, your spouse can only react, or not even react, but respond based on their perceptions or observations. But if they don't know what's really going on the inside, they can't be extra gentle with you. They can't support you. They can't help you look for places, to, counseling, therapy clinics. They can't truly walk alongside you to their full extent and ability if they don't know what's really going on. So I think just the more that you can be transparent with your spouse. I know that, Ryan, you've had a season where you just came to me and said, I'm just really struggling. These things are wearing on me and I'm just really having a tough time. And, and vice versa for me, where then we can say, okay, you know what? You've encouraged me, you encouraged me with the better help, or if it's making appointments for wherever, but also maybe it's other complementary activities that will help you, So last night, you've always been so good at this. Last night you were home cooking dinner while I was at bar 3. And it's been shown that exercise helps your mental health too. So, and same for you. Every night, I know that you're going to come home and do a Peloton workout, and I'm okay with that. And we manage household activities so that we can each work on that we know contributes to mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's required our open communication.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to communicate that. And if you are struggling, to communicate with your spouse that you are. Mm-hmm. I think that at that point, there can be more compassion, like you said, Michelle, to kind of step in that gap. If it's a season, hey, you can step in, you can help, you can do this, whatever it is.
Well, that's our show for today. Ryan, thanks for writing on this important topic. Yeah. And thank you, listeners, for joining us today on the Celebrate MarriageCast. We'll have a couple of those links in the show notes. I have Sioux Empire Christian Counseling linking in there. And then we'll also have the Sioux Empire's 988 line information with the South Dakota Department of Behavioral Health is on there as well. So if you don't have a church home, we would love to have you here at Celebrate. You can find information at Celebrate.church or Celebrate.church/marriage. And we hope that you have a great week.
Have a great week.